And action.
Welcome to the Darkest Timeline podcast with Ken Jeong and Joel McHale.
Welcome to my fake yelling voice that Ken Jeong just established for no reason.
We already rehearsed this. I was supposed to say this by myself. Turn that phone off.
It's not my phone. It's my watch.
Take two. Welcome to the Darkest.
Here we
go. I just need to be no overlap. Welcome to the Darkest Timeline podcast with Ken Jeong and Joel McHale, episode 3.
Sounds natural.
Episode 3.
Sounds very natural.
Episode 3. How are you doing, Joel?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good.
I'd like to point out that I've joined you.
Say it again.
I've joined you.
Yeah, you've joined
with your North Face sponsorship.
Oh.
I had to point it out.
Jesus.
Here's the thing. We're all self-quarantining and all that and social distancing, but Ken has taken upon himself to not actually change clothes.
Yeah.
He's worn are you like a superstitious Major League Baseball player who only will wear the same socks for every game for an entire season? What's going on?
I've always been like that. I always just wear the same clothes every day because it literally is just one less thing to think about. That's why I wear the same clothes.
Have you thought about your wife being attracted to you, seeing you in the exact same outfit every day?
She has got astigmatism, and so it really is not an issue in our marriage. Wow, it's totally fine.
Okay, that was a dirt road, and I cheers you to that dirt road. That did well.
No, but I appreciate right before I began the podcast, Joel's like, wait a minute, I gotta wear something. And then we get on, hey, look at what I did. I'm a prop comic. Blah,
that's
blah.
Yeah. Well then
Yeah.
So you call me the prop comic and look at those lamps behind you. It looks like you spray painted bananas or something and peeled them and put lampshades on them. They're really nice.
Those are incredibly expensive.
Gaudy, did you say?
Say it again.
Gaudy, did you say?
I know, I said expensive.
Is that from the Liberace collection that I heard so much about?
Ignoring that, little known fact, Joe, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this publicly. You and I actually have the same. We actually have the same decorator. We moved into this house a few years ago. And we have the same designer who I believe helped decorate your house. So there's a lot of – it's not just community that like intertwines us.
We fired her day one. First day we fired her.
Was it – and it wasn't because of the quality of her work, just because she worked with us?
Well, she had shown us some of the she showed us some of the drawings of how your house was going to look. And we knew immediately, it's like sometimes you walk into a restaurant and it already it smells a certain way and you're like, nope. And you turn around and walk out. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. She doesn't design smell. It's just,
that was an analogy to illustrate how we behave.
Look at me. I got North Face too. I'm doing podcast bits. Hey!
This is a guy.
Wow! That took me 2 months to think of that bit. And I chose not to wear sleeves because I gotta show my guns. Bleh!
Ken, how did your exercise go today? Your exercising, did that go okay?
It was the best 5 minutes ever, and I loved it. It was good. I broke a sweat. Had to drink 3 Coke Zeros just to hydrate right now. And I'm on the second of my third one.
How many Coke Zeros are in the house right now?
About half a case, about 12.
That's it? That'll barely get you to bedtime.
That'll barely get you through bedtime.
What?
Look at my North Face. I'm doing a bit here. Doh!
Listen, you wear the same clothes every day. I thought I would join you in solidarity, and who knows, maybe the North Face will send us stuff.
You know what, North Face.
Drunk.
Either North Face or North Face. If you're listening to this podcast, please be our first sponsor. By the way, we have no ads. We're sponsor free. So North Face, jump on it.
Yeah,
right?
everyone knows that North Face is a huge sponsor of podcasts.
Yeah, I think so.
They love The Fighter and the Kid.
Do they?
No.
Is that true?
No.
Okay.
They don't sponsor any podcasts.
It just sounded authentic. And by the way, like I said before on the first episode, just anyone affected with coronavirus and COVID-19, I just want to just extend all of our love, thoughts, and prayers to everybody. We are at the peak week. We're actually at the supposedly, while we're recording this, at the peak week of infections right now. I don't know if that extends actually to California, but particularly in the hardest hit states like New York, Michigan, I believe New Jersey. Louisiana, those are the hardest hit states right now. At least New York, Louisiana, and Michigan. California, for as geographically large as it is, they've done a remarkably good job in terms of the case rate has been down. Although it's always hard to detect is this the true caseload of positive cases, because not everyone's getting tested. But I do think that I was talking to my wife, who's also a physician and still practices, and I think and I quote, we have geography on our side because we are spread out, because we are a car culture, and also because everyone got in front of it really early in California and started to stay at home and shelter in place earlier than the rest of the country. I think kudos to everybody here in California for really staying home. And I follow Nate Silver, who does 538. He actually he predicted how much Obama would beat Romney in the 2012 election. He's a stats guru, and I follow him on Twitter. And he remarked how it's been remarkable how everyone has been compliant nationwide with the stay-at-home and shelter-in-place mandates. There haven't been, let's say, a lot of relative crime or looting relative to what could be. So I think everybody, nationwide realizes the gravity of the situation. And I mean, a lot of times in the news, you hear about people not being compliant, people on spring break, people going out. But I think what is underreported is how much people have been complying and following it. So kudos. Yeah. What do you think, Joel? You there? Wake up.
No, I was waiting for you to stop, and then you did, and I have a lot of questions. It's just when you go on.
Wow, it's really great. Andrew, our producer, was literally like applauding at that.
That's why I pay him. I pay him 51%, so he has to.
I mean,
Ken, no. I have a real.
He's high-fiving a plant. It's whatever. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, does it? Yeah. No, Ken, listen. I'm going to talk for 5 minutes. Listen. No, I don't know as much as you, and that's why when you do talk, this is a very rare compliment. I can't remember what I was going to say, but you're great. No, so they call this the peak week, as you said, and. Yep. This is when it's going. This is when. So if we get through the peak week, I feel like peak week sounds like all the spring break. They're all going to Fire Island right now, and that's the virus. And then spring break ends, and they slowly, drunkenly start leaving. But peak week, I have a feeling that after that, people are going to go like, "Oh, we're fine. It's on the down. We're fine. Let's go back out." And But that's not the case. That is just, we got to the top of the mountain, we got the top of Everest, and now you got to climb down, and it's just as dangerous. Correct?
Oh, yeah, very correct. Because just because you're past the peak, the case rate is still high, the mortality rate is still high. It's just decreasing relative to the highest death rate. So it definitely have to keep your foot on the pedal and stay at home. Yeah, I know those metaphors are a bit mixed.
So we got to stay on the pedal and stay at home. Foot on the pedal. Stay on the pedal, foot at home.
Andrew was applauding again, laughing.
I'm just trying to get. He's not laughing at that. He runs Bert Kreischer's podcast. He's a busy man.
It's weird for a producer to give a standing O to a talent. I don't
know.
That's
Thank you for calling it.
Whatever. We're gonna cut all this out. It's just
All right,
I don't
so
know.
then, Ken, I got to ask
Right.
you about the therapies that everyone keeps talking about. Like, I know that you have a bent spine that will eventually be straightened out again at some point, because I've seen the way you walk, and it's bizarre. And maybe it's just a short leg or something. But the therapies for COVID-19, I know you know a lot about them because you start using words that lose me. And
I know, like feet and lip and nose.
pedal,
There's a lot of
foot.
a lot of anything above 2 syllables, like you get a migraine. It's
Oh,
just
it
weird.
hurts. I am public education here, my friend. So right now, which therapy looks the most promising? Because we're not going to have a vaccine. We're not going to have a vaccine for like 16 months at the soonest, right?
I mean, they always say 18 months, but like, any good physician, you don't want to give false hope. So you're not going to
I said
say
16 only because I feel like they started working on it.
You say 16 because you're a contrarian. That's why you say 16.
I'm not a contrarian. One of these times when he laughs and just rolls back, I just hope Ken just falls fast asleep.
I know. Andrew's laughing again. Dude, you're like, man, just 3 for 3. Dude, Andrew's like keeping score. We should just do a camera on Andrew and just do like notches.
We are doing a camera on Andrew.
Yeah, we are doing a camera on Andrew. That's why you can see him. But no.
No, we could have Andrew on the whole time and just go like, what do you think, Matt Damon? He looks like Matt Damon for those of you.
He does look like that's actually going to be a runner on the show. He definitely looks like Matt Damon. But I think
weird that you use the word runner.
We say he looks like Born Identity Matt Damon, not Born. I don't know, Born Supremacy or whatever. Or Informant Matt Damon, right? He looks like
no. You landed that joke. You stuck it. That wasn't a gymnast just flying through the air and then compound fracturing her femur when she lands.
Not everything's a bit in life. Life isn't a bit.
Is it not?
No. Did you take off your North Face already? Did you take it off?
Yeah, I'm not. They're not paying me. Now I got my Cutino hot sauce.
Sauce company.
Out of Phoenix. No. So therapies that look promising.
Hydroxychloroquine is in the news, probably because Trump is always talking about it and saying how promising it is. And I understand the appeal of hydroxychloroquine. It's a very cheap medication. And it's been around for 30 years. It's an anti-malarial drug. It also is used to treat rheumatoid arthritis and even lupus. It's an immunosuppressant. It actually calms down the inflammation in your body that will go into overdrive if you have pneumonia due to coronavirus. Okay. So, Ken,
I'm about to pay you a compliment. You just explained that better than anybody. And I'm not kidding. That just all made a lot of sense to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. But what a lot of people don't talk about is you need zinc, the vitamin zinc. You need zinc to go in the bloodstream along with the hydroxychloroquine, because the hydroxychloroquine is what they call an ionophore. It's a carrier of zinc, and it allows zinc to go in the bloodstream and disrupt the virus along with the hydroxychloroquine. And
so if you just took zinc, that's not going to work.
Exactly. Because a lot of people, if you look on the internet right now, they're like, oh, go ahead and take a Cold-EEZE, which is made of zinc, and it'll be fine. Hydroxychloroquine will allow the zinc molecules to come in at a greater amount in your bloodstream and will help disrupt that virus. So there's a lot of promise with this kind of therapeutic modality, but it's being so weaponized and politicized and misinformed that Trump is just like saying, we got to do hydroxychloroquine, it's great. And then
it's a really good Alec Baldwin impression.
Fauci will be like, not so fast. And then Trump will be like, yes, so fast. And it's becoming politicized where people are either turned off to hydroxychloroquine and they're just turned off to the messaging, in general. So, but the bottom line is hydroxychloroquine is not approved is not like this FDA approved therapy because it does have side effects. It causes life-threatening cardiac arrhythmias that can be fatal in certain instances. It can also cause blindness. It can disrupt your retina. So there's a lot of nasty side effects that are associated with hydroxychloroquine. However, having said that, and what I'm saying is what I don't hear a lot of physicians talk about.
Me neither.
If they are talking about treating hydroxychloroquine for coronavirus, a lot of cases that I've heard of through people I know who have been affected with COVID-19, they've taken it for 5 days. And if you're a healthy person and you don't have any comorbidities, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have diabetes, you're not.
What is a comorbidity?
Comorbidity means that you have other diseases like diabetes or high blood pressure that can interfere with you getting better.
Okay.
And so if you
like, you could have just said that. Go ahead.
Fuck you. If Joe McHale, you're a
Very
healthy
good
individual.
bedside manner. Go ahead.
You're a healthy individual. You are.
Thank you. That's true.
And so, assuming that you are a healthy individual, with no significant medical conditions, and also you're not on medications that can interact with hydroxychloroquine because they can. So there are certain antidepressants that can interact with hydroxychloroquine and cause cardiac disturbances. So
I got a couple friends up in Seattle that have lupus. What I know that the words being thrown around like it's all over the place. So are those people going to get their medicine?
That's a great point, because right now in New York, there is a 14-day limit on how much hydroxychloroquine you can prescribe. You can't just stockpile it.
Right.
So what was getting me upset was Hannity. There was a headline yesterday that said, Cuomo, why are you denying New Yorkers hydroxychloroquine? And that's not the case at all. There's a 14-day limit because you don't want it stockpiled so people who do have lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, they can still get their medication. So, and if in outpatient cases, if certain case studies show that that they may emergently treat someone with may treat someone with hydroxychloroquine, is typically for a 5-day trial. So no one's being denied anything in the context of coronavirus treatment. And it's not and I keep throwing the word treatment around. To me, it's a drug that shows some promise, but there's been a lot of studies right now that are undergoing to confirm that, because there was one case study in France where they basically had 30 people enrolled in this trial. A few of them were on hydroxychloroquine, a few of them were not on it, and it showed that the few that were on hydroxychloroquine had better results. However, there were 6 people of that trial that were excluded from that study because A, they couldn't handle the medication, B, I believe a patient had died, and so there was all these other confounders that disrupt the integrity of that study. That's why you need many more cases, and that's what they're doing right now worldwide. You need hundreds, even thousands of cases of people who are on hydroxychloroquine to see if that really works. But there are other medications that are specifically designed for this, or designed for viruses like this, like remdesivir, which is a very promising drug that was used for different kinds of coronaviruses in the past. There's a trial at Cedars-Sinai right now. They're using that drug to see if there's improvement, in morbidity, which is sickness, or does it decrease mortality, in coronavirus. So, and they have convalescent plasma, which is getting the antibodies from people affected with coronavirus.
I know what convalescent plasma is, dude.
What is it?
It's collecting people who've had their blood, the people who've had coronavirus.
Actually, you're right. That's fine.
Well, you just said that, and then you asked me what it was. So
Man, Andrew didn't applaud, but he like laughed.
He appreciated it.
Not that you and me are trying to like.
How many hours of news did you watch today, Ken?
I honestly, I watched about 4 or 5. I had it going on. I mean,
when you walk into the room, does the television just come on for you?
I have YouTube TV, and I will put it on my phone, and I will play CNN or MSNBC while I'm cleaning up dog diarrhea in the courtyard.
Ken has a new dog named Mocha.
I have a new dog named Mocha. It's a golden doodle, and so while I'm cleaning up the doodle's doo-doo, I'm listening to Cuomo every morning, and it is soothing. It is soothing.
And do you still feed the dog has diarrhea because it's eating all the flowers?
Joel and I were talking about this off air. My wife accurately concluded that the dog was having these GI symptoms because it was eating all the succulents in the courtyard. So we got rid of all the succulents, and the bowel movements are much improved. So I have to think.
Still, though, they're still pretty loose. What you're saying, has it gone? I can't believe I'm asking you this.
What are you on, Dog Ring? Are you like watching everything that's going on in the courtyard?
Dog Ring.
Yeah, I was just wondering, who cares? All right.
No, I think people would like to hear you.
Oh, about my dog.
I wanted to know your news process as you. Yeah. I don't even know how you pick up diarrhea. You must use a hose, right?
YouTube TV is. Are you on YouTube TV? It's amazing.
No, my kids are. No joke.
I don't watch regular TV anymore because you actually link it up through your cable provider.
Is that what happened to Dr. Ken?
Or say it again.
What? What did you say?
You just said Dr.
Something
Ken
about how people don't watch regular TV anymore?
Dr. Ken.
Ken, let's take a moment.
Yeah.
Why don't you take a moment to wipe your microphone off?
Okay.
And because this is called The Darkest Timeline,
that's good.
which we have not mentioned yet, like 23 minutes into the show, or whatever it is. And we do need at some point to talk about Community, which was a show that Ken guest starred on for 6 years.
I was a series.
He was a reoccurring character.
A series regular with a very small
as a
part.
co-star.
So there's a fine line.
Featured extra.
Fine line.
Anyway,
yeah.
I don't know what you just did to your microphone, but now we can't hear you as well.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Can we hear him, Andrew? Oh, you're fine? Okay. No, I just want to freak you out. And actually for a moment. No. So we should. So we had a couple guests on last week, and it was technically.
Thank you to Andrew Yang, and thank you Gillian Jacobs. Yep.
And then people on the social medias were wanting us to talk more, answer more community questions, and then Ken and I took a lot of time away from our families to have hours of discussion on whether we should have guests.
Yes.
And we're in the debate now whether we should have any guests today.
Yeah, we're actually like in real time. We're still trying to figure out the format. So this morning I went on Twitter and then I said,
Shocker.
Darkest Timeline fans, which do you prefer, guests or Joel and Ken Q&A? And there's 64% actually. I'm reading this in real time.
64%? You can calculate the percentage?
Yeah. It actually says 64%.
I just saw your phone number. That's great.
Yeah, 64% said Joel and Ken Q&A, and 36% said guests. But so that actually, that's very flattering, because people want to hear us talk. Because
one of us, I feel like we've heard you talk a lot today.
Yeah, I mean, and even the last time, I think I monopolized some of the conversation last week.
I'm joking, Ken. You do great. You're the doctor. This is why we're doing this. You're a doctor.
No, but no, but Joel and I are trying to figure it out, and there's a couple of people on Twitter because I actually asked people to ask us questions, and I retweeted it, and now I want to go back to Darkest Timeline, and someone said something hilarious.
Take your time finding it. Go ahead. Take your time.
I know.
No. Go ahead. Scroll through stuff while we're.
I know, man.
Recording the podcast. That's great.
I know.
No. This is fascinating.
Oh God. I wish I could.
Keep going. It's not like you should have prepared that.
Oh God.
At all. Is this how you were as a doctor? Would you walk in and be like, "Oop, forgot my thingy. I should wash my hands."
No,
and
I wasn't like that as a doctor.
Where's my white coat?
I didn't have a podcast.
And they're like, "Let's listen to your heartbeat." Do you know where a stethoscope is?
Okay.
You have one on you, sir?
Yagmur, the needlessly defiant, said, "You two not going to answer anything. Stop lying to yourselves and us." So, and then
no, Ken, that was worth it.
Yeah, and then someone replied. They said, "Not wrong. It's just the two of them going back and forth." And then the other person's like, "You say that is like a bad thing." So,
well, we should ask our producer, our great producer Andrew, whether during the minute by minute we can see people tuning out of the podcast, because you're going to see a real dip there.
Yeah, let's get Andrew on the mic. I don't know if you can.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Oh, he doesn't want Andrew to speak. Wow. See, interesting. Andrew's favorite person is not allowing him to speak, but yet I am.
I just didn't want to drag the bit out like you were.
All right.
See what I did there?
All right. Well, no, I don't know.
All right.
What do you think?
Should we ask Andrew? We could ask Andrew.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, you can always see people dip in and dip out and see where people drop off. But
he is so drunk.
No, that was definitely worth it. That was great stuff. Great content.
Listen to his drunk voice. He's just so drunk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what?
For this, whether we should have guests or not,
let's ask another person.
Let's ask a friend whether we should have guests.
Let's ask a friend.
Shaklacky.
No, hey, Danny.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Hey, man.
So, on this podcast, we're trying to decide whether we should have guests or not.
Oh, okay. Well, how's the podcast going? Do you feel like you need something different? Or
Ken?
Well, I mean, come see, come saw. I feel like I feel like you can have guests on it, but people want to see really good friends talk. But, do we have guests from Community on it, or do you want to see, people from Community talk? And I don't know. I'm just kind of figuring it out right now.
What are the percentages? What do you think?
67 no guests, 34
is 64% say no guests, and then 36% are saying guests. They would like to see people from Community, and it's kind of like their favorite characters on the show.
Yeah.
Oh well, to the 36%, how you doing? But I don't know. I guess it really depends on what you're looking for in terms of each episode. Are you specifically looking to?
Yeah. It's not too.
Episode
we just
thing? Like, is this a bottle episode?
Can you just give us an answer?
Yeah.
Your gut.
You know what? I could actually. It's really good to see you all. By the way, hope you're all doing safe. Staying sane.
It's great to see you. Yeah, it's great to see you too.
Let me just show you something real quick here. So take a look at this. I got this upstairs in my home office right over there. I don't know if you can see here.
So
cool here.
Okay, that's great.
So that's one of.
Wasn't really an answer.
Guys.
Yeah, I just don't. I really don't know, man.
I don't know. Well, Ken, why don't we start with a question?
Okay, we'll start off with a question. All right, here's the first question. For
those of you who didn't know who just joined us, that was Allison Brie.
Yeah, and I think she played Sally on the show.
Yeah.
Was Sally?
Sally.
Yep.
She played John Sally.
Okay. She played John Sally, who was actually in the pilot, I believe.
Yep.
Okay. Miles Krisiak said, "What are your guys' favorite supporting / recurring / guest characters?"
I thought you were great. You were my favorite supporting character.
Really?
Yeah, by a mile, you were my favorite supporting character.
Just because
I will say this: have you looked on Netflix and seen the way they present the show?
No, actually.
If you go in the boxes, like it has the grid, it just has suggestions.
Yeah.
It's you dressed up as a pirate.
What?
Yeah, go on if you can pull it up on your screen there. And it's not it shows us as a group if you're on just part of the whole thing. If you're looking at
have I become the new Crystal the monkey of you know, like it's just about the season 4, just like publicizing the show. Join Crystal. Like, you know,
there was a time, you guys.
It's just Chang going like this.
There was a time when Crystal became, somehow it turned into Animal Hospital or Animal Practice, that short-lived sitcom where all the promos they wanted to. Was that the 4th season that was happening?
The 4th season,
and where we joked the show was going to be called Kamunkety, because I think Gillian came up with that, and she was like, next on Kamunkety. Right. And then we would do these promos. They're like, all right, so Crystal can't be here, but we're going to have Crystal pulling a community banner through the shot that we're going to shoot separately. So can you follow this? They had like a stick, and they're like, follow this stick with your eyes. And I was like, what's happening? And they're like, yeah, because Crystal's going to run through. And that's when we all called all of our reps. And we was like, can we not make this Kamunkety? Can we please just keep the show the way it is? We've gone through enough now that Dan's gone. But yeah,
that was so, man. I mean, a lot of times when you're doing promos or when you're doing publicity for a movie or a TV show, sometimes it misses the mark. But I've never been on part of a campaign that was, it couldn't have been more heavily skewed towards a monkey. And I'd work with that monkey on Hangover 2 and Zookeeper. I'd worked with that monkey on a couple of movies. So that's what made it even more bizarre.
It was like Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
The chemistry was incredible.
But I think, getting back to that question, who among, just say in terms of favorite guest character, let's say recurring character like Leonard. I loved Leonard as he always nailed his lines, and also you and Richard Erdman, you know, rest in peace, had such great chemistry. It was always like, you know, shut up, Leonard, you smell like eucalyptus. You know, you always just had you had the best chemistry with Richard, I think, than anybody else on the show. It was really
that's true. Wait, thank you. He was fascinating because he would tell these crazy stories, and one of them was that Marlon Brando was his roommate in the 40s, and
I didn't know that.
Richard was all over he began acting in the 1940s. The guy, when he came to Community, I mean, I think he died at the age of 93 or 94. So in Community was 10, 11 years ago. So he was already in his mid-80s, and he was pulling the same hours we were pulling, and he was always and he had great stories about going to Hearst Castle when Hearst was there. Like, he would go up there, and he would be like, Hearst always wanted to meet starlets, and he would had some friends. He'd be like, let's go to Hearst Castle. And he told a story about one time walking by. It was anybody who look up Hearst Castle, and he was a newspaper baron, and the movie 2001 is all about his life. And I was going to see if you're listening. No. He played the computer. No. No, Citizen Kane is about William Randolph Hearst, and he built this crazy castle up in the midway up California between San Texas and.
That joke came out of nowhere, dude.
I was waiting to see how long it was going to take you to pick it up.
No, literally, I was just texting. No, man, honestly, I like, real talk. I was just texting my boy Pootie, just thanking him, and then literally, but I was still listening to you.
You couldn't have waited till after the thing was over to thank him, but that's fine. That's cool.
You got in real time. You just want to, like, not be a dick and, like, wait 3 hours and say thank you. You just got to thank your friend for doing a bit, and you just do it really quickly. And I feel like it's a podcast. I mean, why does everything when we sat down to do a podcast, I didn't. Why does everything have to be so fucking video? You know what I mean? Like, when we're talking about it, we're like, when you think podcast, it's audio, but then everybody who has a podcast is just, man, we got to have a Vimeo page. We got to have a YouTube page.
This is
you got
good
to have
to get mad about.
YouTube page, you know.
This is a good thing to get mad about.
And the whole thing was just about having audio. And then now, you know, I'm constantly worried about my grooming. Well, I'm not.
That's very true.
Oh, it's funny. That reminded me of what you're saying, wearing the same clothes every day. Because I would wear a fleece every day to community.
Yeah.
With the same jeans, same T-shirt. Because I'm going to change clothes. I'm always going to wear the same So I wear the same clothes to set all the time. And then I think around the 5th season, Gillian said, I used to think that you used to wear these ratty clothes because you're like a rich guy pretending to be poor. But after doing this for 5 years, I really believe you're poor.
Oh, that's good.
That's what and Gillian, I tell you, even though she's the sweetest person, and thank you for taking a part in it last week, but off the cuff, man,
no one's
Gillian
faster.
Can give as good as it gets, man. We would just go at it like you and I. She is really female Joel. I mean, she is.
That's not a compliment.
Yeah, no, we would just get each other's nerves.
And both Ken and I will. I mean, she respond like if we're on a text chain with a bunch of the cast members, and she's like a joke sniper. And she will respond so fast that I don't know how what's the one that
Yes.
Oh, great. Now, take a look. There was one that was so I couldn't type it that fast, even if I had thought of it. Anyway,
I typed something hacky so fast, like a hacky joke, and she just zinged me.
It was your life story. It was something about like it being the Ken Jeong life story, but I'm glad I'm telling a story.
Yes, yeah, she totally. But like literally within 1 second, like she had it all queued up. It was, if I can find it later on.
You tweeted it out. You tweeted out the whole thing. I think I did too.
I think I put it on Instagram. I was like,
between her and Don. I mean, we'll talk about that. We'll go into depth about this, but
we'll talk about that. Don't you? I mean,
but in between takes, the number of different things, the jokes, and thank God we had a good time in between takes. But thank God we liked each other.
Who was the most entertaining in between takes to you?
Who was the most entertaining?
Yeah,
Donald.
I think so. Yeah.
He was the number of it was one of the, I know everyone knows Donald now as a sitcom star on FX, but
he's multi-hyphenate who's a genius, not sitcom star.
He plays in Steve Martin's banjo band now, and I think that's amazing. And,
does he? I think he's a star and creator and
okay, yeah. There's a story at some point, Ken, that I'll tell maybe next week, that if I tell it, it's pretty obscene, but it's a character that Donald used to do.
Yeah.
But I'll have to, we'll maybe talk about it next week. It doesn't, at some point. But anyway, Richard Erdman's great. No, so he was at Hearst Castle. Going back to, so see if you see Citizen Kane, go see Citizen Kane because
he's been in every movie. If you look on his IMDb page, Richard Erdman, every movie, and in the past 6 years.
Yeah, we've at my mother-in-law's house, and a Murder She Wrote episode that she was watching from that's a 35, and there was Richard, and it was pretty. He was very funny, and it was very. Dan gave a nice tribute to him when he died. But I remember, and Dan.
What was his tribute?
Well, he just said some really nice things about him online, and I'll never forget the day I met Richard, which was in Long Beach when it was at the pool. One of the very few times that we traveled with this on. The budget kept getting reduced every year for Community to the point where we could not afford outside shoots. So that's why, if you notice as you watch the show, the only places we go outside are right outside the front doors of our sound stages. So you could, in theory, think that we were on some spaceship, like that movie Dark City, where you go, what's going on? And you realize that you're all trapped inside. And so anyway, we went to Long Beach for this pool scene in the first season. John Oliver and you and Jim were part of like you were judging. I forget the whole thing, but they put Richard in the water, and he was the only one that volunteered. There was a few old people, and they put him in the water, and he had one line to say, and he had like a little paddle board, and we had no idea that Richard pretty much couldn't swim. And so they would take the paddleboard away from him, and he would begin sinking, and they're like, action. And he would do that almost comical thing where he'd be like, well, I don't know. And then the lifeguard would jump in, hand him another paddleboard. He'd come back up, and they're like, Richard, you okay? And he's like, I'm fine. And we did it like 10 times. That was the beginning of, as Dan will say, it was like 6 years of him doing all these amazing bits.
Yeah, that might have been within the first 6 episodes of the first season.
It was, yeah.
That swimming pool, and
I'm not kidding. In that the budget for a while, we would go to that park at Paramount. There's a place where people would eat lunch that we counted as our Greendale's courtyard. And the first season, so there's all these palm trees in this courtyard. They would take these wraps of which look like pine trees, because we're supposed to vaguely be in Colorado, and wrap them around the palm trees, and that established that it was Colorado somehow. And then by the third season, we could shoot in that park. We could barely afford it, and I'd be like, "Hey, what about the pine tree wraps?" And they're like, "Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it,
doesn't
troublemaker."
Matter.
But I see Mark Wahlberg leaving from a meeting, from a building.
Oh, I remember the day I walked, because it was on the other side from our soundstage, and they don't move the trailers if you're staying on the same, you're on the same lot. And I walked into a building, and they're like, "Yeah, you can't use the bathroom here." And so they had to keep making us walk back half a mile to the bath. It was, this is hard life, but it was I just love that we're shooting a show at Paramount. Like, "Yeah, sir, you cannot come in here, please." Please.
We shot on the same soundstage as Glee. I think we're like right down the block from Glee at Paramount. We were there for 5 years.
Not the same soundstages, but the same. We were on the same lot.
Same lot, and it was amazing. Like the Taborees were at a different building. One of my favorite random meetings. We're leaving the Taboree to go back to filming, and then I ran into Master P, he's a neighbor of mine.
Yeah.
and we just started, and it was like first or second season. We just started hugging, just talking a little while. And I remember introducing Danny and Donald to Master P. And it was as awkward as you think. Ken, how do you know Master P? And we just talked for the longest time. And, "Oh, hi, Percy. This is Donald Glover. Donald, Percy.
That
Percy
is
Miller."
Not a typical sentence you hear most people say, though. Yeah. We had just walked from the Glee set, and I ran into my neighbor, Master P. That doesn't happen very often. That is not the conversation your parents had with other parents or other friends as they're walking down the street somewhere in North Carolina.
Well, wouldn't you randomly? I remember. You told me sometimes you would run into some A-list buddies of yours, or just at Paramount. I remember you told me you ran into some peeps. That was our producer is saying,
"Stop
Andrew's
talking about that.
So relatable right now."
We're what?
So relatable right now.
Yeah. Anyway, so Clooney was shooting a coffee pod commercial, and I'm like, guys.
I actually wanted to bring up Clooney. I wanted you to bring up his name, because I remember you said we were shooting the Pulp Fiction episode, and you said, "Man, I just ran into Clooney shooting a commercial."
Yeah, it's not what I. Yeah, it's not how I did it.
Really? I just saw Percy. We're relatable.
No, I remember going, because for those of you now, I don't know if Clooney still makes those commercials, but it was for coffee, and they had built an entire Italian sidewalk at about 10 feet high so he could pop out of a manhole with a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And
now that's good drinking.
Yeah. And I
said,
"Hey, George, can you take all your money and I'll take all my money, and we'll put it in a big pile and then just cut it in half?" And he said no. But anyway, relatable. But
yeah.
We're just.
Here's another relatable story.
Here we go.
On that same episode, and you know him too, like Tim Tebow. And
I really know him. I met him once that day.
Well, we met him a few times. All right.
I have not met him a few times.
Really? Okay.
No. I remember that was during the Pulp Fiction episode as well. I believe.
During the Pulp Fiction episode.
Oh no, and he saw you.
Yeah.
And because he came on,
it was during the Hangover heyday. It was like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, and he just pointed at you and was just like, "Do Mr. Chow, do the Chow, do Chow." Yeah.
Well, it's all his friends. Credit, it was not Tim as much of all. Like he had like 6 buddies with Ed, his whole entourage, and then I was so I was just so shy about it. And they're like, "Do Chow, just do it, just do it."
It was like a weird frat party.
And I was just kind of like literally just like looking, and then I said, "Toodaloo, motherfucker," like that.
What is that from? What is that
all
from?
All of them literally, all of them went, "Hooray!" They high-fived each other. They high-fived each other for 5 minutes. There was like chanting and cheering. Oh, and then I look at Gillian is the only person that saw this. You were actually working. Gillian's, and I look at Gillian and I just went like this.
She was
dying.
She was so happy because she knew she was going to make fun of you for that the rest of your life. The rest of my life. It was just like so great. Tebow is the largest. Everything on him is large. Like he looks like a normal person who's been ×2. Like his head's big. Like he doesn't look. Some basketball players are like, well, that's a very tall person. But it's like he looks like Barkley, where everything is just larger on him. It's like the opposite of you.
Here I was, yes-anding you, and then you just go for the kill.
I'll say this: do you remember when Glee? So there was for those of you who remember Glee, it was a very popular show. People love it, but it was the white hot buzz on that show was insane. And it came out the same year that Community did. But it was just, people could not stop talking. It was huge. And it was the same thing with like Tiger King, where they're like, which character are you? And all that. And it was huge. And I remember they got nominated for 13 Emmys or something. Something crazy. Season, yeah. And there was a huge banner outside their soundstage. It was like, Glee, 13 Emmy nominations, and Dan had a sign made up that said, like, Community, 0 nominations. And that stayed up for a long time. It's glorious. Those were the days.
Man, I guest starred on Glee the last season.
Wow.
The last season
you really got in on that, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted some of that Glee money. I wanted to see how the rich cats live. And
did you sing?
No, I didn't sing. It was
Thank God.
one of the characters. Their parents were played. The mother was Jennifer Coolidge, who I love from Best in Show. She's just one of the funniest idols.
People I've ever been around, I think.
Yeah, and so they offered me a part where I would play her husband, and I really did it so I could work with Jennifer for 2 weeks. And it was during the Yahoo season during hiatus, and it literally just I just did that so I could share scenes with Jennifer Coolidge, and she is like Jim Rash, just everything that comes out of her is just gold, just comedy gold. Have you ever done a movie or a TV show like just so you could work with someone that you love? Like X-Files. You're on X-Files. And by the way, you're very good on that, on the reboot. You working with David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson?
Answer Community questions. I did get to be on
did you do that because you're a fan of the show? Did you do that
No, I have a heroin problem and I'll do anything. I couldn't. Yes, believe me. When they said, would you like to be on the X-Files? And my agent was like, is this something that you would want to do? I wanted to reach through the phone and grab him by his collar and be like, don't you understand what this is? And because I was a huge fan of the show. And I basically played Alex Jones, the guy who believes that there are lizards in caves beneath us, which is true. And so I couldn't believe I was there. I couldn't believe I was talking to Chris Carter. I couldn't believe I was saying Mulder and Scully. I was saying those words out loud to them. I couldn't believe it. And at one point, I remember I asked Duchovny about an episode, of a specific moment in an episode. And he was like, we were at the craft services, and he stopped. And as he was listening to the question, and he just goes, "Are you a fan?" and I stood there and I was like, "Yes, I am. I'm a big fan of the show. I also like Millennium and freaking Lynx and all of them." And so I couldn't believe I was that I couldn't believe I was on the show. I was so fucking happy. I just couldn't believe it. And then, believe me, I still sometimes communicate with them, which I can't believe. I got to give a speech for Jillian when she got her star on the Walk of Fame.
Wow.
And she was like, "Would you come do a speech for me?" I was like, "Do you not have any friends at all? What happened?" Because no, because
What did you read? Your IMDb page? What did you do? Do some jokes?
No, I read
some Tyra Banks material.
I did. I did. I did. It was great.
You did some Conan alts. Like you did some stories that you didn't say on Conan or Leno. And,
I told this amazing story about buying a puppy and about trying to
diarrhea,
just eating all the bulbs.
Anyway, congrats on your Walk of Fame.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you have you been at any of those ceremonies for the Walk of Fame?
I can safely say no. I've never been invited. Yep. I've never been invited to. I'm not even allowed to walk on it.
That's not surprising.
Just like,
But here's I forget the guy's name, but he calls himself like the mayor. He's the new mayor of Hollywood, which is just a neighborhood.
Hollywood. Yes, yeah.
But it's not an actual city. But he does basically read when he literally will read the Wikipedia page of the person who's giving the star. I am not joking. Go look up those speeches. He started, and Jimmy Kimmel, name drop, he warned me, because I've been to a couple of these ceremonies, and he goes, "You'll see," he reads the Wikipedia page out loud, like the bullet points of the Wikipedia page. "You'll see." And so that is exactly what happened. Jillian, he goes, "Well, Jillian Anderson," he began reading out plays she had been in high school. And like productions in college of plays. And there's like 1,000 people there, and everyone's staring at him, and it's like, and then English, she was in Night Mother, a production that took place at the Pantages Theater outside of Springfield, Illinois, and it goes all the way until they get to like then he'll say, "And look for her in Restoring the Home, coming out in 3.5 years," or something, like, because she's attached to it that hasn't been made. And it's really
But
wonderful.
It's Wikipedia. It's just like reading all the troll comments from a Wikipedia page. And Jillian grew up in Bonerville, where she was raised by blah, 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 blah. And then her dad licked a salt lick for 3 years.
What the hell are you talking about? She was raised in Bonerville. Scored with Andrew. Andrew enjoyed that. This is great. I like to keep a score during our podcast. I think at the end of every podcast we go, "Well, Ken, who won today? Who do you think won?"
Oh, you always win.
I forgot to ask Danny whether he had broken his nose again running.
You're a dick. You are a dick.
We gotta have next time. Amazing. Maybe we'll have Danny on next week, and he's the only person that I knew that went for a jog and did not trip. He doesn't know how it happened. He was just running.
He tripped.
Yeah, well, he tripped, but he didn't trip on anything because he looked back. There was nothing to trip on. He landed on his nose and broke it, and then came to work the next day. Or excuse me, that day. Was it a Sunday? But he came to work, and his nose, it looked like he had been in a prize fight.
Yeah, it's funny when it happened. I think that day he went to an urgent care, and he like texted me a photo just to see, like, does it, and I was like, yeah, you need to get that. You need to get that look, But he knew he was going to get it looked.
Here's the thing about Ken that I'm going to give him a very large compliment. So hold on to your Coke. But so Ken, as you know, one of the reasons why we did this is because he actually can speak to this coronavirus thing instead of what most people do and go, well, you have to wash your groceries down with bleach for 2 hours and
turn off your 5G,
Nice. Yeah. Nice one. Sorry. And so what do you mean turn off your 5G? Is that a thing?
Well, they're like linking. I mean, there's always these weird conspiracy theories linking coronavirus to 5G or some crap like that. And
have you heard the one about the lab in North Carolina that they're perpetuating? That they're like, oh, there's a weapons lab, and there's a weapons lab in North Carolina and in Wuhan, and they're the same lab or something. And I'm just like, can you please?
I'm from North Carolina. The only weapon lab I can think of is, I don't know,
Duke's defense. Duke's defense on the basketball court. Okay.
Duke's defense, because I'm a alumnus. Booyah. Yeah. Man, baby.
Yeah. Who's that impression of? Is that Alec Baldwin again?
That was, I think that was Allison Brie. I think I did impress. She talked in.
No, so here's the Ken is a real doctor, and he really. Ken goes into this, you kind of hear it a little bit, but it's not all the way. He goes into this voice where you're like, oh, this is a real doctor talking to me right now, and I'm very happy he's here because we don't have a real doctor on set. And Joe Russo of all, I don't know if you've seen all his movies, but he only directs Hallmark movies now.
Yeah, he does all the Marvel movies. He and Anthony Russo, his brother, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War, Endgame. Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, they're the biggest directors on the planet right now. And Joe was having some pain in his legs. We were shooting very late at night, and Joe was having some pain. So they called the studio, I guess it was studio nurse or studio, and they have a person who is at the studio 24 hours a day to help out, and you see them, they're required by law, as they should be, but a lot of the time they don't have a ton to do. But they called this woman in, and Joe's legs are hurting badly, and I don't know what kind of an examination she did, but she sent Joe into the stratosphere with fear because she was like, I believe you're having a circulation problem. This could mean, she said things like, you could have your arteries, you could have an aneurysm or something. And Joe began to go into a panic because he's like, I'm going to have to go to the hospital. I'm going to the emergency room, guys. I'm leaving. And then Ken came in and he was like, Joe, sit down for a second. And Ken did an actual exam on Joe's legs. And then I remember Ken just looking at me. He's like, so Joe, tell me, so with your, have you been exercising a lot? Did you do something? He's like, yeah, 2 days ago I had and he's like, so your legs are probably, so you use whatever chemical causes soreness in your legs after you exercise. Yeah. And then you just basically established that Joe had exercised for the first time in a long time and was really sore. And
it really is. That's 100% true because he called me in and I didn't. He just texted me and was like, "Hey, kid." He talks a little bit a little nasally, like, "Hey, kid, come here, man. We gotta talk." I thought it was like a creative thing. As an actor, I'm like, "Oh God, what did I do wrong again? Did I screw up another take? Was it too over the top?" That's going in. I'm thinking like the neurotic, insecure actor. He goes,
"No, that's not neuroses."
He goes.
That's just, and I would say that's a legitimate
that's
fear
a fact. That's a
performance.
known. Yeah, it's a really more a good performance note, Ken. But no, he came. So I went to him and literally, he thought that he had a blood clot in his leg, and maybe it might have been that medic that he said, "Look, I think," and he knows his medicine. Joe's a smart dude, and he was like, "Nurse said I have a deep venous thrombosis. You think that is?"
I can't believe.
So he's lying down, and I'm like doing all these tests, and there's a certain sign that you look for in the calf that may or may not be reliable, but that's kind of that's one of the ways, like the poor man's way of diagnosing a blood clot in your leg. And he didn't have any of these signs, and it just and I did say, yeah, I think you have a musculoskeletal strain. It was just something you would, as a doctor, just like, what is that? He goes, yeah, you just pulled your hamstring. That's all. So it really was. I mean, it was a whole to do about that. And Joe and I. It's funny when he could win 8 Oscars, and I always I always think of that moment. Does that make sense? Like that, like there's certain people. When I see Joe now, or when I talk to him, I just think about that moment where he thought he had a life-threatening blood clot in his leg, and
I just could you believe a set nurse would be like, "Well, you have a clot. This could move up into your brain and kill you," and he's like, "Whoa, how did you get to that?"
Yeah.
It seems a little bit irresponsible. No.
No, well, it's sometimes in medicine you rule out the most serious disease that you think of, and honestly, if you have a blood clot in your lung, that can be immediate and it can be fatal. And so you have to think about that. So if you have a high index of suspicion, you go ahead and run that test. But that's when I would watch. Remember, for those of you that were alive in the 90s and early 2000s, ER was the most popular show ever. That was that must-see TV night with friends that was a great. It was too good. It was too good a show.
Well, I was when I would watch that, I would tell my wife Sarah, I'd be like, you know what the show should be called? Worst Hospital Ever. Because everybody walks in with like, oh yeah, just this finger's not working right. Just stop working. Oh yeah, why don't you go over here? Dead. And then they're dead. And they're like, what happened? I don't know, we missed it again. And I was just like, this is... And then there was one episode where like a handheld missile went off and blew up an ambulance. And I just wanted there to be a separate scene with someone across town going like, hey, should we go to... I don't know what it was. What's the name of it? I don't remember the hospital. But like, hey, should we go over to that ER there across town? Are you kidding? No, everyone dies there. There was a murder in there.
I just like, it's TV. And so it's like you have the handheld missile, and then you see Julianne Margulies going, George, we need to talk. Mm-hmm. You know, it's always something like that. And then the missiles are firing off in the background.
There literally was a missile. Like it was a rocket-propelled grenade went off that happened in an episode and blew up an ambulance.
But I tell you,
there was also there was a murder in it. There was no. I'm not kidding. There was the episode where Noah Wiley's like the love interest was killed, and I was just like, worst hospital ever. I'm sorry. I'm glad I got that off my chest.
You might be talking about subsequent seasons, but that first season of ER, man.
No, they're all great.
No, that first season of ER, I was still in med school. And that show would give me anxiety attacks because of how real it was, and there were doctors on the show that were also professional TV writers who were also physicians, and I do remember seeing something on a CAT scan. It was something wrong with the spleen or something like that, and then it turned out to be a rare manifestation of AIDS, something like that. I still remember the case, and it really. That just blew my mind as a med student, because those are the type of thinking you have to kind of process when you're in med school. It was so accurate, like some of the cases that they had in those early years. I actually stopped watching it because it was literally like watching work, because I was rotating in an ER, seeing some of these cases on the front line. And I'm like, I can't watch work. I can't, I need more Urkel in my life. I need something. I can't You
had the Clooney haircut. Did you go full Clooney?
Full Clooney.
Clooney's coming up a lot today in the podcast.
A lot of Clooney today. And I went full Clooney and a little Urkel. And then anytime I did something wrong in the hospital, I go, did I do that?
Can't believe you got thrown out of... Now, when were you thrown...
A lot of relatable celebrity stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah. No, but Ken, when were you thrown out of medicine?
I wasn't thrown out. I left medicine voluntarily. I was not kicked out.
So it was like one of those things where you agreed to quit or something like that?
You spread like this ugly rumor that I was disbarred. You can't be disbarred from medicine. No, it just...
was it one of the things where like, you're out of here, and you're like, no, I quit? Was that that type of thing?
No, it was more like, just got a movie and, training support.
That typical thing where you get a movie. Yeah, a lot of doctors. That happens to a lot of doctors. Did you ever, speaking of misdiagnosing blood clots on sets, did you ever, maybe I shouldn't answer, but did you ever get something totally wrong? Or were you always, because you were so good with Joe that I was like, oh, dang, Ken's a good doctor. I mean, because did you ever? Because I assume if you didn't know, you would do everything you could to go, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to call 12 people to figure it out.
Bingo. To me, medicine is really educated guesswork, the kind of medicine that I do. I mean, if you're a surgeon, you can open up a patient and see what's wrong with it. But if you're an internist, it really is educated guesswork. And you never really double down on anything until you have conclusive evidence through surgery or through imaging or through a conclusive test. That's it.
Right.
There's always what they call a differential diagnosis. It can always be one of 5 things. And so that's the way you have to think as a physician. And
so you were like, this is either a broken arm or gonorrhea. We have to narrow it down. That's one more time.
Either way, get him a condom stat. And then what? Andrew laughed, but out of confusion. It was more of not even a pity laugh, a confused laugh. And
you either have.
And
right,
and no, it really is. I remember a physician friend of mine says that who's a big fan of comedy was like, in many ways, medicine is the kind of like internal medicine. The kind of work we did was improvisation. You listen to the patient,
right? You
gather information, you yes and it, and then you go by diagnoses, and then you see, is it this? Well, we'll run this test. It's not that. Is it this?
Like,
we'll get that.
Right.
So
they're like, it's either a slip disc or psoriasis. We're gonna do some more tests.
Something like that. And if you don't know what it is, because we're generalists, then we refer to a specialist, like you said, the expert. Okay, this is definitely.
Have you ever? Because my dad got a clean bill of health when he was 60. Like all these tests. A week later, he had a heart attack. It's not funny, but he was like, that fucking dog. He never used the word fuck. He would say that. He would say it, but he would be like, he said I was totally healthy. And he was so mad. And I'm like, I'm mad. And it seems like on a 60-year-old, I just, when you hear stories like that, I go like, oh, crap.
Well, first of all, your father's doing fine. He's doing well.
He's still
first
in prison.
Of all,
yeah,
he's happy.
I feel all those people are dead because of him.
But he's good right now.
He fell out of a tree about 13 years ago. That really happened. We'll talk about that some other time. Yeah, no, that's a good story. It used to be a big part of my stand-up, but but I just going back like a doctor who just like, yep, you're clean, you're healthy. Congratulations.
Okay, I could see a scenario where that could happen, where someone, let's say someone's high blood pressure is maintained and controlled through medication. Someone's cholesterol is controlled through medication and diet, but let's say there is a significant family history of coronary artery disease, okay? And then you totally controlled for the blood pressure and cholesterol.
No one in our family had a heart attack or extended. Riddle me that, Dr. Ken Jong.
Well, I mean, I like to not wanting to diagnose, over a FaceTime. If there are any other comorbidities involved, I'm throwing that word around, but it's significant. You're really looking for other telltale signs,
right?
And if there's not a significant history of heart disease, then why did that?
Well, he was bright red and 700 pounds. Is that a giveaway? Is that a bad sign?
I feel like you're just like your dad is.
Who's your favorite minor characters from Community?
We've only done one fucking question.
We did one. That person was very right.
That person, whoever said,
like an hour
and 12 minutes maybe of like just one question. But to me, a cardiac event, a heart attack, you could have an embolism like you would on a blood clot in your leg, and like the clot just flicks off in your bloodstream and lodges in your lung. It's the same thing with it's the same principle with your heart.
Right.
You could have an atherosclerotic plaque, a cholesterol plaque, kind of flick off and land in the one of the main coronary arteries of your heart and cause a significant damage. And sometimes that process it can be relatively random, So it's the same kind of principle. So. And then the cardiac event just happens very fast. So to me, it's that's the thing about medicine. It's not foolproof. Just when you think you have a control of something else happens, and that's why, which applies in today's coronavirus world.
Nice.
Everyone wants like hydroxychloroquine. Everyone wants hydroxychloroquine to be the savior drug, but there could be other great, amazing drugs that have minimal side effects. You don't want to. You got to. You don't want to see the forest from the trees. You got to keep your mind open for everything. Yeah. And I think you just don't want to be misled by one solitary thing, thinking that's going to give you the cure. Did
you see Contagion, the movie?
Oh, I saw it years ago. I can't rewatch it. It's trending on Twitter.
It's always trending now.
It is too real for me. That movie, like that season of ER, it's just too real. I can't watch it.
Yeah.
It's I know your boy directed it, and it is, but it's just too good. Some movies are just too good for me to watch, man. I would get an anxiety attack.
Do you get that way when you watch I Am Legend? Because it was like people got sick, right? And then it's like a bad disease. And then you got a dog.
I love that movie. I'm not going for realism. I thought that was a well done movie. So just throwing it out there.
You're just saying that because you're like neighbors with Will Smith?
Yep. So yeah, moving on.
Next week, your favorite Will Smith movie.
God, I need to go to another question, man. All right.
We still haven't answered this question. We said one person. And I never even told the rest of the Richard at the Hearst Castle story. I never told it.
You told it for 30 minutes, dude.
No, I never got to the actual punchline of the story.
Okay, finish up the story and then we'll go to rapid fire.
Yeah,
all right, how about that?
Not worth it. I don't want to.
All right.
Oh, okay. So Richard, as you know, sorry. Okay. Hearst Castle.
You're gonna text me after this podcast. He goes, "Hey man, I know we're joking around this whole time, but really wasn't cool of you guys to not let me finish my Hearst Castle story."
Anyway,
hey,
William Randolph.
This is Joe McHale. This is like real Joe McHale after the podcast is over. Hey man, look. I know we're cracking wise and all, but I'm sorry, man. It just. Moving forward, just if I want a story that I'm passionate about telling, like Hearst Castle, just let me finish it, please.
Just let me, just give me some runway, okay? Okay, just once. All right, William Randolph Hearst, right?
Yes.
They did a movie about him. It was called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
With him. Yes.
Okay.
Richard Erdman rolled with him.
I know. Yeah. And so he went to the Hearst Castle with these starlets, and they were in this room, this large room that had a pool in it. It was indoor pool. It looked like it was from Rome, but the pool was empty. And he goes, "Oh, that's too bad the pool's empty." And they had their whole evening. They slept there. They woke up. They had filled the pool overnight, and it was heated. And that's the end of the story. Worth it. Worth it. Worth it. Woo! I'm so sorry.
After the podcast, you're going to text me and Andrew, just sincerely going with a prayer sign. Thank you.
Thank you for
I really
letting me
appreciate you
tell
guys respecting me, for letting me finish my story.
Randolph
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Richard Erdman.
By the way, we were talking about celebrities. We were talking about
here we go.
Brushes with me before the rapid fire. I've never asked you this.
Don't. Oh, go ahead.
No. How did you get approached to play Chevy Chase in Stupid and Futile Gesture? How did that happen? By the way, Joel McHale played Chevy Chase.
That's true. I'm really talking into the mic weird now.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, it was a very strange casting in my book because as people who are listening knew that Chevy was on the show, Parks and Rec, and we'll talk about, we'll get to Chevy at some point and see if we can get him on the show. And no, but
amazing.
We'll get him on this. David Wayne, the great David Wayne, Red Hot, Wet Hot Red Summer.
Role Models, which I was in. Thank you. Waiting for that. Moving on.
You in Role Models?
Was in Role Models.
Oh, all right. Paul Rudd.
Okay, it was a small part, but just moving it. Whatever. Go on.
Who'd you play? What was your character?
It was just go on, dude. Just go on, man. Just go on. Go on about.
So relatable. Okay, no. So, what am I saying? So, I played Chevy in this movie. Who knows, Ken? Maybe you'll be approached to play me when they do the Soup movie. But
I think I'll politely pass.
I think you'd be great. No, and this is look.
No, I know what you're saying. The casting was definitely inspired because Seth Green played Christopher Guest, right?
Right.
So in the movie, yeah. So I was like, wow.
Yeah, and they wanted to get. That's what. And Seth was. He played. Yeah,
that was remarkable. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
guy.
no, but because one of the reasons why David. So I had just started to get to know David, and I knew this movie was coming together, and they asked, like, they knew that they had to cast Chevy, and Chevy and I are the exact same size. And this is a big shocker, but there's not a ton of 6'4" actors that are comedians around, as you evident. I mean, everyone is mostly Ken.
I think the three of us. I think like you, me, and Chevy. Like, there's not a lot of like actors that fit our build.
Well,
or
I would say
steaming handsome, you know.
Well, no, I mean you
family men, you know.
No, I mean you play like you have a child's body, and that works on everything. And
on a community episode, you and I did a scene, and I said, "Look at me, I have the body of a fifth grader."
You have a great body. We've seen a lot of it. I love it. No, but believe me, when he cast me, I was like, I can't believe. And then, of course, as soon as he cast me, then I went into a sheer panic of how the heck I was going to do this. And I called Chevy to let him know that this was happening. Because at that point...
What did he say? What did he say?
Well, when we first talked about it, as you all are well aware, Chevy's relationship to the show is one that is somewhat well publicized. And... so I hadn't spoken to him in a while, and I called to tell him. I was like, so I'm making this movie, and I'm playing you, and it's about Doug Kenny. And for those of you who want to go back and look at this movie, if you want, it's on Netflix. I'm burping, but it's about Doug Kenny, the guy that started the National Lampoon, and that is back in like the very late 60s, early 70s. This magazine got started, and it was the biggest thing on the planet or in America for white people. It was just a huge, huge thing.
And did it take place at the Hearst Castle?
It was at
Tell me all about that.
Got a great story. So there was a jacuzzi that was empty.
Oh my God! Was it warm?
In this apartment?
Was it heated or was it cold? I gotta know.
No, there was nothing in it. And then the next day. The next day, they had filled it with water and it was heated.
Oh my God!
Stupid. So then Doug Kenny, who also wrote Animal House. For those of you young people out there, you should rent Animal House because it created a genre. And then he also, this is all taking place in 1979, he wrote and produced Caddyshack, which went on to be the most, still to this day, is the most, literally the most successful sports movie of all time.
I think that's Chevy Chase's. I know Chevy likes Fletch the most, but I think that's Chevy's finest performance in any movie.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
If you go on, and that's where I stole a lot of the stuff I used in the movie, because I didn't want to do an impression. I just wanted to do the essence of him. I know that sounds odd, but so anyway, Doug Kenny, he created the Lampoon, Animal House, and then Caddyshack, and then he died. And that all took place in less than 10 years, or about 10 years. And so the guy was like the Hamilton of comedy, and he never got his due. The entire first Saturday Night Live cast was part of his group of people that did the Lampoon. Like Belushi and all those guys, Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, and so Christopher Guest, and so not Gene Wilder, Rosanna
Gilda Radner.
Gilda Radner. They were all there, and so the guy never got his due. And this book came out about him called A Futile and Stupid Gesture, which is also the name of the movie. And I told Chevy, and he got a kick out of the fact that I was playing him. And then I said, it's all about Doug. And he was so happy because his friend Doug was finally getting some due.
That's awesome.
And then I called him when the movie was coming out, and he was like, why are you telling me this? I was like, because the movie's coming out. And he was like, what the hell are you talking? And I was like, okay, cool. And anyway, so glad we got to the rapid fire questions, Ken.
And did you explain to Chevy? Well, William Randolph Hearst.
He was a man who made newspapers. But
I mean,
Ken,
really, like, you chose that.
Yeah.
Of all things.
But tell us,
here's
Ken.
Here's a quick one. Carlin McCarthy says, who were or are still your heroes growing up?
Pass. Next question.
Okay. What are... Okay.
Is there a timer?
No. Well, oh, God, I had more. How are you both feeling on the last day of filming Community? Any feelings you want to share with us? That probably will take about 8 hours. Sorry.
That's sad.
I know. Sad.
Sad. Good one. That actually wasn't. That's the right kind of question. How do you feel about 6 hours after the day is hungry? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Tyler Cooper says, did you have any creative input into the episodes or your characters?
That's a good question. No. I mean, yes. But of course, this is the thing about Dan Harmon is that he is, I think Ken would agree, he's the greatest writer I've ever worked with. And he had the whole universe in his head, and he established these characters, and they were like his children. And so I read the script, and I was so happy when I read it, and I was just like, I have to get into this show because it was such a good, you could see the whole sand, but you were like, oh, this could go anywhere, and these characters are already so well established just in the pilot. And
he wrote it with you in mind. You know what I mean?
No,
do you think he wrote it with you in mind?
No, he wrote it with that friend of his who was modeled after him. His name is, I am sorry, Dan's girlfriend at the time, they were watching The Soup, and she said, that's the guy.
Really?
And that's why I was brought in. And
really?
Yeah.
Because Erin watched you on The Soup and was like,
yes, she's great.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and that's when I went in, and there were the Russos and Dan and another producer, and I read with Danny. I read alone, and it seemed to be working, thank God. And then I read with Danny, and that's the first time I met with Danny, and that was just a work session at Sony. And for you people out there, you have to jump through so many hoops.
It is horrible.
When you haven't been established yet, to get a role is like hitting a couple of grand slams.
It's a miracle to get anything, to get any role.
It is
in anything.
And then it's a miracle for that thing to get on the air.
Yeah, it's a miracle it's a miracle to have a pilot on the air. It's a miracle, and it's even a double miracle to get something greenlit to series. I got to ask you this. I know we're doing a rapid fire. Like, did you know anybody else that was up for Jeff Winger? Anybody? Did you ever hear like, oh, it's down between you and William Randolph Hearst?
Well, that's a funny story. So I was at.
I can't compete with a guy with jacuzzi. There's warm water.
I was at Hearst winter home, which is in Utah, and there was a sink that I walked by, and I was like, oh, there was no water in the sink, and I was like, that's too bad.
Anyone that you're like that was up for it, they're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna go to.
He's a very nice man. Michael, he played Lex Luthor in Smallville. Really good guy.
Yes. Oh, Mike and Rosenbaum?
Yes, he is
like
truly nice and kind.
I wish I could have. I'm a fan of his. I like him.
Well,
oh
now
man,
you say that
amazing.
like that's a like you don't like me, but you like him. Like you like his work better than mine.
I mean, I will miss Tales of Northern California and the Hearst.
It's Central California, but which reminds me, there's a Best Western across the street from the Hearst Castle. It's like the nicest Best one.
Let's talk about that for a podcast. Do you want to talk about Solvang and
this really
all the
food
Dutch
there.
windmills that were saluting you?
The Dutch windmills as opposed to the other kind of windmills?
Yeah, Norwegian. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Racist.
You know what?
I
got a couple of questions here. Stephanie Voss says, who is the ass crack bandit?
I don't know.
I think it was Annie. Because remember in the last episode, in the finale, Allison, there's a great scene where like, oh, it's ass crack bandit. Who could it? Could have been anyone. Could have been. When you walked in with the costume where you were looking with eyes in the back of your head, if somebody go look up this, God.
It is the most amazing costume you'll ever see. And what Ken did,
it was my least favorite one because I had to lean over because
we're all trying to figure out who the ass crack bandit,
a guy who would put quarter down people's butt cracks, like at Greendale, and we're trying to figure out who is and it was shot like David Fincher's Seven. You know, it was shot like it was an amazing episode, and it was the same lighting that David Fincher used, and just so the Dean and Chang found a way to kind of like we're investigating it, and or the Dean was. So I had to wear a Chang mask on the back of my head and a butt crack on my stomach, and I'm
and then and then I remember you had I
had a churro.
A churro
that was going from the back of my head to my real butthole, and like I'm eating it through my stomach. It was like layers upon layers, and like I'm walking backwards. It's like I'm walking backwards, and then Bob Rowe, first AD, is like he's yelling at me, "Hey Ken, you got to hit your mark, man!" I'm walking backwards, and I'm missing the mark of the camera. Come on, man, we're losing the light or whatever.
I'm walking backwards. I cannot see
I'm walking backwards, and they're like, not good enough, you know. And I'm like, wow. That's community for you. I'm being scolded because I don't know how to walk backwards and hit my mark.
Why aren't you looking at? You can't even see your mark. What are you doing? Why don't you look for your mark? Just walk up to your mark.
And then you and Allison are dressed up in like sexy detective clothes, and the director's like, "Oh, Joel and Allison, you're doing great. Just keep what you're doing, or change it, whatever you want. You're doing great." By the way, that was a great line from Community on the 6th season where Chang was a Karate Kid or auditioning for to play the Karate Kid, and Jason Mantzoukas is whiplashing me, and he's just yelling at me and like totally abusing me and saying I'm like the worst actor ever. And then he looks at Allison Brie. He goes, "Annie, you're doing great. You just keep doing what you or change it up, whatever you want." And then going back to yelling at me. All right. So I think okay. So. Danny Dorito said,
Danny Dorito? Well, we should definitely take this one seriously. This is how podcasts work, right?
Do you think Joel McHale could bench press Ken Jeong?
No, you're way too heavy.
All right. What was the funniest episode to film?
I don't know if I could pick you up. It would be like picking up like I I would say it would be like somebody had filled a garbage bag full of Jell-O, and then said, but it was like a big garbage bag, and they're like, "All right, now just bench press that." It would just fall. It would just mold all to you. Yeah, I think I'd suffocate.
Taxi, take me to the Hearst Castle. Stop it.
We're going to see the empty pools at the Hearst Castle. Dude, I'm Richard Erdman. These are my starlets. I asked for that pool anyway.
All right. Okay. God. So a lot of these questions are they're just gonna open up deep dives.
No, yeah, you gotta save them for later. Let's do find something vapid.
No, I know. Okay, I'm just gonna go randomly. This will end it right now. I'll go on Twitter, do a hashtag search of the darkest timeline, and get the first question that I see on Twitter right now.
Yeah. Why you didn't? Good thing you had these ready to go. I have some other Hearst Castle stories I can tell. Anyway, have you ever had beluga caviar? Richard Erdman did. Man. Look how much water I've had. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna whiz all over the place. This is a good way to know when the podcast should be over. When my bladder explodes. Okay.
We'll do
one more.
Good Lord.
Oh, we're out of time. This is fascinating to people. Us reading shit.
Oh God, I agree with you, man. There is like
Let's just.
I gotta thank everybody here to. Okay. Are there still? Okay, this is it. We're ending on this.
I think we've already ended. We ended 12 minutes ago. I think I nailed it with that Hearst Castle story.
Free Luna asks, are there still quotes from the show that you use to this day?
I think the most used one that I've used is probably the Britted. I Britted it, or something like that. Yeah. You Britted it, which, I can't remember. Was that established season 2? I can't remember. Do you use anything?
Yeah, I go, let's go to the Hearst Castle, everybody.
Nice. All right, well,
and thank you so much.
That's the Darkest Timeline. That's our third episode. Thank you to Danny Pooty. Thank you for talking over me, Ken. No one can hear you. He's turned off your microphone, so I can end the show this way.
Enjoy your week.
Ken, I'll see you next week, but no one's ever going to be able to tell that time has passed because you'll be wearing the same thing and in the same weird escape room that you call a bedroom.
A bedroom is not an escape room. And we have the same design.
I think Tran does call it an escape room.
All right. We'll end on that because Andrew is clapping. He's like, end on that one. Love you guys.
Love you, Ken. I miss you.
Love you, Joe. Miss you. Bye.
Bye.